Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Sending Ravens. I have two really exciting and special guests today. I'm just getting to know one of them, Katie. So, Katie, can we say your whole name here?
Of course, yeah.
Katie Raine. Yeah. And then Kevin. Kevin, how do I say your last name?
Hoyt, Kevin Hoyt.
Kevin
Right.
Hoyt.
You got it.
Okay, so people, you might have seen me on an interview with Kevin Hoyt and Michael JACO before. That was a really exciting interview. So we're back at it, Kevin and I hacking out some info, and Katie's bringing us all kinds of magic that she's been downloading, let's say. Would you call it that, Katie?
Yeah, I guess so. We're remembering.
Remembering, exactly. Remembering. I like that. Okay. So recently, these two were on a video again with Michael JACO. And who was that other fellow you guys were with?
Nick Sylvester.
Yeah,
Right.
which was a fascinating video.
And we gotta,
and I've-
give Nick a huge shout out too, by the way,
Yeah.
because he's kind of the one that's started Katie with her logs, if you will. And he was met through my show with you and Jaco is how I met Nick. And
Okay.
I can't tell you how many other people are involved with Janine. I think Janine is a giant part of this, actually. No, I
Awesome.
mean that, Janine. We're gonna ask the cards, right? If I get my way, a little more about that, because I do think all of us in the truther community, and I've had this discussion with all of them, when we have these concerns or questions, or you just magically appear and give us our answers. And that's happened to every one of us. And
Wow.
it's the same with the links and the connection. So I think you're a big piece of this, whether you know it or not. But
Wow.
yeah, I
Okay.
do. I think, again, that's part of that cosmic connection. I think you're part of the family too. And
Uh-huh.
Nick's your biggest fan, and I'm a big fan of Nick Sylvester.
Wow.
And I want to give him that special plug because he deserves it.
Okay. Well, we'll have to get him on here when his internet's working better.
I love that. That's always his problem. That's
Yeah.
funny. That's Nick.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, so let's start by asking Katie how she sort of got into this, just briefly. And if anybody wants more info, you tell the whole story on that video that I will share the link below. Go ahead, Katie, tell us.
Yeah, I think I'll start off by sharing that video if I can.
Yeah,
if you want to
I'm
hand the host over to me.
Make you the host here. There we go.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay.
Yep, that's a great idea.
Okay, here we go.
Is there supposed to be sound to this?
I think we lost the sound. Yeah.
Yeah, we lost the sound to it, but
Oh, really?
yeah.
We could still watch it though. In fact,
Yeah.
it made me read it. So maybe
But
it's
did you
better,
hear the sound at the beginning?
Yeah, right at the beginning.
right?
Oh, interesting. Okay. If anyone wanted to rewatch it with the music, they can go to my channel. It's up there.
Yeah, it's a really good production. And
Yeah.
again, being a regular layman for all the other normal deer hunters out there watching, that looks like a great movie, Katie. It looks like I'd go watch that, right? But we're not talking about a movie anymore, which is pretty
No.
incredible. So let's talk about that a little bit with Janine's viewers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start my story like through my childhood, but I grew up in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, Canada, very small town in the country. And when I was young, I was very connected to telepathy, my intuition. I would often, I felt like I was an alien in my family. I just had future visions of where we were going, that it was going to be all about unity, community, working together. We were joyous and just lots of lush greenery, jungle, and just pristine nature. And I had these reoccurring visions, and I was like, where am I? Like, it's so dense here. It's like jello, like walking through jello. And it didn't make sense to me. And I'd oftentimes retreat to nature, talk to the waters, the rocks, the animals, and the plants, because just to escape the chaos of, like I was very sensitive to energy. So I would pick up any kind of emotional energy. If my family was like fighting or, any of that stuff was really, really heavy and hard to deal with. And I'd oftentimes just like fall right asleep in many different places. Like my body would just shut down to recharge. So fast forward, I got into surfing when I was 12 years old. My father introduced it to me, and I was instantly hooked. The ocean and the water was always a means for me to like escape or feel more at home. So I always felt more comfortable actually in the water versus being on land. And I'd be in the water any chance I'd get. So as soon as I connected with surfing, I was just instantly addicted, obsessed with it. I started competing at a young age, getting into international competitions. I was part of Team Canada when I was younger. And so I did a bit of traveling with that. And that was like my main passion and what I love to do. And then I realized later on that surfing is probably the nearest thing to operating a plasma ship. It's a form of plasma harvesting, and you're in these, you're in the same brainwave state, gamma, high frequency brainwave state, where time just slows down and everything, like there's no thoughts. Everything is through muscle memory or just instinctual. And that's how the plasma ship hooks into your consciousness and how it's operated. And so I didn't piece all this together till later on in life. But so fast forward up until I was 16, my parents were pressuring me to choose a profession. Like, like most people in my generation, Canadians, like, it was normal to like go to university, or, proud parents, they want their kids to be educated. Yep. So I had no idea what I wanted to do. I didn't even know myself, and just something dropped into my consciousness, pilot. Oh, a pilot would be cool. And I was more interested in how, these fixed wing aircrafts operated and how they, like, why they stayed in the air, how did aerodynamics operate? So I was more concerned or intrigued by the mechanics of it. And I just wanted to go to school to kind of learn that. And I just thought it would be fun. And I loved to travel. And I always loved heights. I was a fearless child. I'd be the only one like at the theme park wanting to go on the roller coasters. And I'd like often just go by myself because nobody in my family would want to go with me. And so I was always like into adrenaline stuff. And I loved that. I just loved anything of adventure in my childhood. So I applied to pilot school. I originally my first thought was military, like, because fighter pilot was, I don't know, thought that was exciting. And luckily I didn't have 20/20 vision. So I wasn't able to get accepted into the military, thank God, knowing what I know now. And I didn't, I dodged that timeline. But I ended up getting a full paid scholarship to study a 4-year program in commercial aviation. And I graduated when I was 21 with my commercial license and my integrated airline transport pilot license. And I also had an interview direct entry into Air Canada Jazz. But at the time, as I was going through school, I was I realized quite fast that, you know, it wasn't the path of corporate aviation or airlines wasn't for me. I couldn't stand the dissonant frequencies of airports. That really bothered me. And like just, it was completely dissonant to nature. It wasn't in harmony whatsoever. And I noticed a lot of the pilots in my life who did work for the airlines, they tended to age really rapidly. Like they all looked older than they actually were. And so I intuitively knew that these technologies weren't healthy for us. And so also when I was going, when I was in the planes, like the reverberation of the mechanics of the engine, the smell of the fossil fuels, all of these things, the loud, obnoxious noises bothered me. And I, you know, if my idea of flying was like, I love to connect to the earth and just nature and the things around me. And I love peace and quiet. So that was a big turnoff for me. And even though I was a fearless child, there was a little bit of fear with this technology for some reason. And ironically, right at the year of my graduation, I had 4 friends in my program who ended up dying in random plane accidents. Out of the entire history of the college, it was just this one year that we had all these accidents. And then, you know, since then, that kind of freaked me out a bit. And I was just like, yeah, already I kind of knew I wasn't going to pursue it. And it wasn't really, you know, I knew I wanted eventually to get back to it. But yeah, I decided to just take a break from it, like throw in the towel. And like, I basically just took off, traveled, surfed, and just worked odd jobs, bartended, restaurants, anything to like, you know, have the freedom to travel and explore the world and do what I was passionate about. And so, but I did tell myself, I remember telling myself that I wasn't going to return to aviation until the planes were silent or the technology was more advanced. And so the years went by. I spent a lot of time living in different places, surfing around the world. I had a spiritual awakening at about 27, 28, and I was on a pretty strict spiritual path since then, doing a lot of inner work. Then this past year in July, in June, I was visiting a really good friend of mine, Julie, and in Kamloops, Canada. And we were at one of these, the national parks up there. And we were standing outside this big waterfall. And all of a sudden, the whole half of the waterfall and the rock face of it completely shifted. And it felt like I was underwater, like my ears went in, like the pressure in my ears went in, and like my consciousness went inwards just for a split second. I was just like, whoa. And then I just blurted out. I felt like I did when they'd taken me off planet when I was young. And then my friend Julie next to me, that was the first time I met her. She had no idea I was even a pilot or I went to pilot school. She blurts out, "You're here to pilot a spaceship." I was like, as soon as she said that, it was like full body hit, like goosebumps, like, you know, I was just like, yeah, like, you know, electricity, like, I was like, yep, that's true. And, you know, everything, in that moment, what happened was I was taken up on the ship, and she had a clear vision of me standing in the control room next to a galactic being and I was just finishing up my training. And I was in this like commander room, and it was kind of like the Gravitron ride at the fair. You know, it's like it's like the seats are slanted going around in a circle, but the sides of the ship were like that and with screens. And I was just finishing up my training, and she had this vision that she shared in that moment. And that's when she got the message about me coming. My mission here was to pilot a ship. Mm. And so since then, it was just like, okay, mission engaged. Like I had my whole life, I had no idea what my purpose was, what I was supposed to do, but I knew that intuitively, I knew it was something that wasn't a role or defined thing yet. And so like all the stuff in my childhood, through flight school, everything started making sense of why I felt the way I did. And so all the puzzle pieces start coming together. A week or so after that, Julie got directed to go to YouTube. And so this whole past year has been like a series of crazy synchronistic events. And, the way me and Julie operate, we're both quite psychic, so we bounce things back and forth, and we often we validate each other that way, and more like it opens up a channel. Like she's part of my star family, my soul family. So yeah, I believe that we specifically reincarnated here together so she can assist me on my path, because otherwise, like, my path is so out of this world that it would be really hard and difficult to do this on my own. And I didn't never really got involved with studying galactic stuff or ETs. Like, I just wasn't around that, and I wasn't around any friends who were into that. So I never really connected to that. So everything was pretty, fresh and new. But yeah, she was on YouTube a week after reconnecting to my mission in June. And Spirit tells her to go and click into this video that pops up in her feed. It's an older Elena Denon video.
Yep.
And it's a video that she channels a message from the Anshar. And in the video, she goes, "The pilot must wake up, the pilot." And she's like, "This is for Kate." And she like sends it to me. And I listened to it. And I as soon as I listened to it, I was just like, again, full body hit, psychic, like, goosebumps. And I was just like, okay, like this, I believe sometimes, like, you receive messages through, it doesn't matter who the messenger is, but Spirit gives you messages through various different things, So there was no coincidence that she was directed to share that with me and connect with that video. And it was like 2-3 weeks old. So, my friend Julie never listens to older videos. So it was really, yeah, she just got pushed to share that with me. And again, confirmation. A few days right after that, at the end of June, I'm in meditation, and this light being pops up into the left side of my field, like a higher density being, and I'm feeling him, and I'm just like, whoa, like, I was just like, who are you? And I instantly get a psychic flash of my bunny that I was so attached to when I was a little kid. And I took this bunny everywhere with me. It was the one toy that I was really connected to, and I talked to it. And when he sent me that image, I got so emotional and started crying, because I realized that he was projecting his consciousness into my bunny, and he was part of my star family. And like, so he's been with me ever since I was young. And so I instantly believed, like, I connected and remembered that this being that just came into my field was basically part of my galactic family. And I asked who he was, and he goes, "My name's Auntie Mietra." And so I just call him Auntie for short. And I got an Andromedan connection, that he's connected to the Andromedan constellation. And I got a psychic image of him, and he looked like an old Chinaman, and I couldn't stop laughing, because I was like, why do you look like an old Chinaman? Like, this is not my idea of what an ET looks like, And he had long, straight white hair, beady eyes, like a little white goatee. And when he smiled, like, his whole face lit up. And I was just like, okay, well, this is what I'm getting. I'm just going to go with it. Like, you look like a Chinaman. And so he came in and reconnected to me, and I had an instant telepathic connection with him. And since that reconnection, he's been my main guide. And so I've been telepathically in communication with him since that reconnection last June. And it was like, not, our family, like, we have to remember what our mission is. Like, they can't, because of free will, they can't come in and there was a reason why he came into my life right after I reconnected to my mission. Mm-hmm. Because they don't want to tip you off or anything like that. Like, you have to figure it out and remember for yourself. So yeah. Everything again was like, time stamped, mm-hmm. like in order of how it was supposed to happen. And so yes, since reconnecting to that, just so much information has been streaming in. I did a remote scan of the planet, and I picked up energetically that my plasma ship was in the South Pacific. The information about so basically Auntie had assigned me he relayed me to a guardian of the plasma ship I was to resurrect. And so I was in communication with her, and she she told me that it was in a slightly higher density, it had like a crystalline, like it looked like marble almost, like the skin of it, and that it was time capsule, like almost like a time capsule, and it was in the ocean. So I received that information. I think it was August or September or so, but it was a few months prior to when Elena had received the information, that when her contact Thorhan, received permission from the Galactic Federation to give her that information about these arcs. So again, that was another confirmation for me, because I was like, when she was sharing that, she used the exact same key words that I was receiving from my contact. And so again, that was like, okay, if she's receiving this information like months after the fact, and she only just received permission to receive this, and I was already receiving this, then I must be connected to this. Like, this must be real, you know? So a series of things have happened throughout the year. And more information just keeps coming through. And I was told to start sharing my story, because there's more crew members that haven't woken up yet. There's not just my ship that I'm connected to, but there's many others that are Earth-based. And so they are activating at a very rapid rate, and they're basically ready for us, but the crew's not quite awake and ready. So I was told to share to help to activate everyone else who's part of it.
So
Yeah.
Kevin, how do you fit in here?
Wow,
Tell us about
incredible
yourself.
right off the bat, right? And for all the people that are instantly going like, wow, what a fantastic story,
Yeah.
right? This is literally unbelievable for most people. And I think the time stamps that Katie is talking about is spot on. I think we all wake up at our own pace. And it's actually, I've made the mistake of trying to push people to wake up early, right? And we can't do that. We actually have to let them wake up on their own pace. But again, to add a little more credibility to Katie, not only the pilot license, which is a hell of an accomplishment. I can't believe you walked away. Sounds like my life. And I bet Janine's got some stories too, right? Free spirits, doing what we want, which is the way we should have all been living the whole time.
Yeah.
But she's talking about Elena Denon. She's actually in Norway right now, hanging out with Puna Flash. So this is the top level weirdo field weirdos, man. And I mean that in a wonderful way. Let your weird light shine bright.
Yep.
Because we haven't talked about these conversations. We've never been allowed to have them without ridicule. And now I think is the time. And I think that's why Katie's here now. Now, as far as synchronicities, this is what makes it in and pulls in a regular deer hunter from Vermont. I'm just a normal guy. Again, my lifestyle in the last 5 years has been incredibly changed, but in the last 6 months, and a lot of the things and feelings I was having when I watched Katie the first time with David Mahoney, I about fell out of my chair. And likewise, Tracy JACO, Michael's wife, about fell out of her chair down in Florida. And there's personal connections that no one else has for me when I heard Katie's stories, and these made it very real. But Nick, for instance, is a great example. Nick Sylvester, gentleman we were talking about at the beginning of the program, he lives in Washington State. Now, Katie, tell me if I get this wrong and all, but her spirit guides telling her to get out of Canada. I'm dealing with 2 Canucks here today. Good thing I can speak Canadian, eh? So
You're doing great.
So she's been told to get out of Canada, and you do that literally the day before the country locks down for 2 years. You just happen to be in Mexico, where you bump into David Mahoney from Spain, who knows Nick. Again, kind of gives Nick Mahoney half a story, because it's not quite time yet. But by the time Mahoney gets a hold of Nick, and Mahoney's Mahoney, and he gets a hold of Katie, Katie's like, now's the time, and this is this fantastic story. Nick's first question is, how are we going to do that? And Katie, your response was, that's your job. He's kind of the crew manager. Now, if you think about it, Nick had already contacted me. We got Rose Gregg in Boston, Lisa Schumerhorn here in Vermont, the JACOs down in Florida. I know a person in Norway where Katie is right now, just a coincidence that she's there in Bergen. All these things are happening, and the odds of all that happening together and our family, if you will, to be drawn together is, I think, almost impossible. And again, you are a big part of this, Janine. And we talked with Michael JACO about possibly us working together in past lives, right? And you and Michael the same way. Well, again, I don't know if time's linear anymore. I'm beginning to think it's a loop. And I think maybe it's a future life. Maybe it's this life and where we're going right now. It's incredible. When you start talking quantum physics,
Yeah.
especially for a deer hunter, it's kind of hard to follow sometimes. But I think all this is on purpose, absolutely.
Yep.
And originally I was going to contact you and I want to talk about Vermont because it's my home state and I love it. The Glossenbury Triangle, we talked about it as the Bennington Triangle, but it's Glossenbury, just like Glossenbury, England, right? We use an E and they use an O, but we're talking about ancient cairns that predate European settlement, giant rocks that aren't from here. Glossenbury, England is where Stonehenge is. I feel there's an arc here. That's I guess my own theory and intuition. I said it for a long time, and the further I go, I get more and more confirmations. We've got some of the, again, top level weirdos from the Domnaher school in Egypt and Italy that I believe are going to be coming here because they're being called.
Yeah.
So on a personal level, Janine, have you ever been to Vermont State? Have you ever been drawn to Vermont State or anywhere in the world? What are your callings, if you will? And I'm talking being pulled. Egypt, Ireland, Greece specifically. There's a few
Greece.
places. Is it Greece? And,
Greece is the place I always get drawn to.
wow.
Yeah.
And me too.
Energetically. Yeah.
I'm going there with Nick, hopefully in October, right? Because I'm being called there too.
Yep.
And these callings, like I said, you have to be available to do this. And Katie's in a very unique position, and I am too. And I think it's on purpose.
Yep.
Where we have the ability to walk through these doors as they open.
Yep.
They really plan life. Katie, you can speak to that too, right? And I don't want to take over the show again. I think Katie's a superstar right now, and I appreciate you giving her the platform. Can we? I want to read some cards too, though. I don't know. We got to come up with a question, right? How can we try to verify or confirm any of this with your cards?
Let's ask Katie what she thinks we should ask first. What do you think, Katie?
Oh, can I share something quickly that involves you with these synchronicities? So I was told to learn the Stargates or refamiliarize myself with the Stargates. And so I basically left Canada and went into the US right before they shut everything down. And I helped actually a friend bring a 75-foot wooden boat across. And when I entered the US, I met the immigration officer and he stamped my passport. And as you know, normally Canadians get about 6 months visa automatically. Well, I got my passport back and he gave me this really weird date. He gave me like 7 months and 3 days or something random. And and I was like, February 3rd, 2022. I'm like, that's really interesting. There's something important about that date. And so when I was told that I was to reconnect to the Stargates on the planet, because I'm going to be using them in the future, I was like, how am I going to learn where am I going to learn that from? And my guide's like, someone will cross your path basically. And I'm on YouTube and I come across a video of you and Huna Flash. And as soon as I watched that was, I think in December or so, or January. And as soon as I watched it, I was like, that's the guy. He's the one that's going to help me with this.
Yeah.
And so February is approaching and I'm like, I gotta go somewhere. I gotta leave the US before February 3rd. And I had in mind Mexico, but I didn't know really where to go in Mexico. And I was thinking maybe the Pacific coast because I'm into surfing, but I wasn't too sure. And I had already reached out to Huna and was in contact with him. And about a week before February 3rd, I'm asking my guides, like, please, like, give me a sign of where I'm supposed to go because I'm not really sure. I call him up and I'm like, I got to be out of the country by February 3rd. And he goes, that's my birthday. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to Playa del Carmen. That's my sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, this is how my life operates. It's just like crazy.
Yeah.
I just wanted to share that.
When I first watched your video with Mahoney, you were talking about a Stargate that you were going to in Norway. That's where you are now. And I think Nick was in that show too. And Nick said, is it Oslo and whatever. And I literally, while watching the show, I said, it's in Bergen, like I knew the answer. And then you said it 3 or 4 seconds after I said it. Again, these synchronicities
Yeah.
are impossible. And my connection with Norway dates back to 1986, right? It's a long time ago. I fell in love with a Norwegian, right? And we've stayed connected through marriages and kids and through all these years. And again, I think this when we go to the spots or when we hear stories, I think hopefully everybody listening today, maybe a few people will connect with this, right? But when we go to these sacred spots, locations, I think we're activated, and maybe we're activating part of that Stargate portal, whatever this is. Or again, I don't know. I think is a really good answer for a lot of people in this because we don't know. We're learning as we go and we're doing it
Yeah.
together. So we shouldn't be shamed into not having these conversations. There's
Yeah.
so much interesting content here. Even if it's entertainment value only, you couldn't write a book or read a, watch a movie that is this interesting and fascinating. So I hope people are paying attention and looking deeper. And when you have that connection, you'll feel it. It's emotional. Like a lot of question people ask is how do I activate? And I'm asking the same thing. Man, I wish I could have a spirit being next to me or get a download, but we're actually doing. And back to Yoda, Tracy JACO told me this, but there's no try and do.
Yeah.
We're doing it. We're talking about it. We're here. I'm on the Janine show today, and what an honor too, Janine. So, did we have a question for the cards though?
Yeah, I would love to know just like a general read on the plasma ship that I'm connected to in the South Pacific. I was told that since I started sharing, the timeline has been expedited quite a bit in terms of reconnecting physically to the ship, and it could be like in under. Let's see what the cards say, but if you can get a timeline of some sort too, but just a general read would be awesome. Thank you.
Now, when you talk about this plasma ship, do you feel like you're on it part of the time, just in a different consciousness? Do you
Yes.
go back and forth? Do you travel back and forth to it? And you feel like they're set in various locations around the world?
I was told there's multiple of these arcs around the world, but the one I'm specifically have the frequency keys for, and that it has been grown around my field, that I was the last to pilot when we had come into resonance with it in the past. That one, that's the one I'm to resurrect. So I'm specifically asking about that one.
Okay. Yeah.
That's
And
the
when you say resurrect, I wonder if it was somehow manipulated by dark forces for a while, and you've been asked to clarify or clear the energy somehow. Because I feel like it's time that ends. It's been in control, I feel like, of with some dark forces, if that makes any sense. So these are both really tricky cards. And I feel like it might have got, even like somebody got on there in disguise somehow, is kind of how I feel like they cloaked themselves as maybe a crew member. I don't know. Right. And that feels like that's ended. So they've got rid of that energy. So it's time now. They're going to need your grounding, and they're going to need your physical energy there just to help clear up the energy and reset things. That's just a feeling I'm getting. It's like a reset, and it's going to take a little bit of time physically to be on the ship, if that makes any sense. And then when I asked about your story about it or what you're getting about it, she's truth and honesty and integrity. So I feel like you're getting the right story. Okay. But all the details aren't quite there yet, because this 7 of Swords, it'll go back and forth with exactly how it all works. Because that 7 of Swords in tarot are thoughts and words. So you're going to tweak it a bit before you get exactly what's going on. You got most of it though, and you're absolutely downloading, and what you're getting is correct, but there's going to be some tweaking and changes to the scenario as you go, and maybe your mission changes. It's still like a work in progress with that 7 of Swords. Don't be afraid to change it up how you feel it'll go, because it's shifting and changing with what went on there and how they're trying to clear the energy and what your job will be, if that makes
That's
sense.
That's bang on. I was actually tasked to do some energy clearing for it because I'm etherically connected to it. I'm corded to the ship. So I'm able to clear energies remotely from the arc. And they also told me, which was really important to share, that the ship, so I had to go through this process of, because I assumed it was like humanity's ship. I'm a representative of humanity, and I'm resurrecting it on behalf of humanity, basically. But I had to go through this process and state that, like my guide was saying, who does the ship belong to? And I was like, humanity. She repeats again, who does the ship belong to? Humanity. Repeats again, who does the ship belong to? Me. And then all of a sudden, as soon as I did this, my solar plexus heart opened up, and I could feel the energy, the cord of the ship hook in. And she says that this is really important. She said that the ships belong to the crew. They don't belong to any nation under a flag, race, military, government, etc. They belong to the crew, the ones who hold the frequency keys. Stand in your power and say, no one has control over these ships but the crew. It's important that the crew take charge. So all governments, nation states, flags, groups will have to stand down. And this ties into the purpose of these arcs, is that they're a unification catalyst, and they also bridge the timeline. So unification catalyst, meaning that all these starseeds that have reincarnated on the planet as crew members to resurrect these different arcs placed in different geographical locations, they don't stand under a flag. Like, they've been born in all these different regions, but when it all comes down to it, it does none of that, all of that falls away, because you can't operate these unless you have the frequency keys to them. And exactly what you said, I was picking up that some of the dark groups, they're literally fighting over these arcs. Like, they think they control it, or they own it, and they don't. So this is like the shift that we're going through right now. Yeah, so that
the energies, though, that would be allowed on the ship or be part of it or tied to it, or however you're saying it there, they need to be friendly towards humanity, is what I get. And that's why any dark entities are getting the toss. It's karmically time up for those guys.
Mm-hmm.
So they might have been in control of those ships, but their time's up, and they're being reclaimed, I guess, by their original crew members, is kind of how I'm getting it, if that makes any sense.
Makes
Yeah,
sense to me.
that's bang on. Thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're reading the cards, and I know it's connecting with Katie too, you can see it, but I'm going bing, bing, bing all the way through. We've a number of different things. My feeling on that is they were there almost like guarding them, the dark entities. They wanted to get them and get control, and they want in just as bad as we do. But I think it's originally a part of us. Like Katie said, that's her ship, literally organically grown and DNA connected to Katie. It's a piece of her, right? And I believe our avatars, right, are the same way, just like the avatar that I'm wearing today. You guys know it as Kevin, right? These are theories. I love you, Janine. I really do. And I think you're a big part of this, and a big thing. We're talking about frequency keys, which is another important piece. I'm going to have to come back on with Nick Sylvester, and we're going to talk about the Glossenberry Triangle and pyramids, because I think pyramids is the original creator of our free energy, but it's more than energy. It's healing, it's frequency, it's a whole bunch of really great things. And I think we got a portal, a ship, an arc, a pyramid, or something in the Glossenberry Triangle, the Bennington Triangle. And I definitely want to read some cards on that. But for now, I'd like to just keep on going with Katie. If you've got more, I mean, the stuff you say is you're almost mesmerizing for me. Very captivating. This is I know, a fantastic story for a lot of people to hear, especially if it's the first time. But I hope people look into it and do your research. For me, this always goes back to Egypt. Janine, we talked about that Egyptian connection too. And all these people, whether it's Nick or the JACOs or Egypt and Ireland, seem to be a huge, and Greece now, huge connectors for everybody. But this goes back to the Egyptian belief system that we are eternal souls, right? Not gods, but godly beings. And we're going up this ascension ladder. And we
Mhm.
do that with ships, if you actually do the research and look. So historically, you can look too. As far as questions, I'd love to throw one out regarding Tucker Carlson. Again, it was a few years ago now. The Pentagon told everybody that UFOs are real, right?
Yep.
And here it is. Now, we've all talked about the PSYOP and the plan with holograms and all this other crap. And again, these are official Washington documents. This isn't just crazy Kevin talking. But Tucker Carlson was just recently on talking about all these hundreds of ships off the West Coast, and they're not sure what to do with them. Reports coming in from the US Navy. Again, this is Tucker in the Navy. I feel giant psyop myself, as these are these our ships that Katie's talking about, or is this another dark cabal plan?
I feel like there's a story they're leading up to. So they're, and they, whoever they is, these aren't cabal, or I don't think Tucker's connected. I think he's actually connected to the good guys. So I feel like they're putting out, so this is a gossip and innuendo card. So they're using the mainstream, and I believe he's a plant from the good guys. I've looked into Tucker and I get good things around him. And this card here says they're putting out a story, preparing you for something. So they're preparing for something, but it could be an illusion with the moon card. So they're going to prepare some big show for the humans, I guess, or maybe they're, it's just one of the things that could happen in the next, there's all these things that they've had, all these plans they've had. And I think the plans were originally from the bad guys, but they've been hijacked by the good guys. So now the good guys are going to put on that ship show. You know what I'm saying? Maybe for disclosure, but a lot of it could be literally an illusion. Right? Because I believe the real off-worlders and the real ships, whenever they want, they will uncloak themselves. That'll be up to them. Energetically, they're all around us all the time. That's what I feel. And when they're good and ready, and I've seen whole fleets of ships off the Hawaii coast when I lived there. When they're good and ready, they'll show themselves. But in the meantime, it's like one of the things they might use and they might not to help wake up humans. That's what I feel like. And they're kind of gearing up. They put all this stuff out there just in case they use it. That's what I've been getting for a really long time.
Well, that's another connection. Again, I finally ran it back to the normal level crazy. I ran into my governor, right? Last weekend finally, and he's being guarded. Security is being provided by the major crimes unit. And anybody in the political field, major crimes unit doesn't do security. They do major crimes. No one in major crimes has ever done a security detail in their life. This guy's in a lot of trouble. And I think you read on that. We read the last time I talked with you, again, that he's controlled opposition. We confirmed that literally through the major crimes unit last weekend. So that's again, another important piece I want to throw in to the normal. But when I had that interaction with him, it was the first time I saw, I'm going to call them cloud ships, because they kind of look like clouds, but they don't look like clouds. In fact, the first Mahoney interview that Katie did, she talked about the Stargate in Norway and how they use the fjords to navigate. And well, for literally 6 months before that, my friend that I was talking about way back from 1986 had been sending me videos and pictures of the exact ships that Katie's talking about. Now, again, they look like really weird, funky clouds to a normal person. My friend that actually recorded the video said she could see lights within them. I couldn't see any lights on the video myself. But I believe her. Again, normal, just everyday, regular person who was brave enough to tell her story, the truth. So more connections.
You got any questions for me, Katie, anymore?
Yeah, of course. I have so many questions. Could you do a spread for like can you get a timeline of when physically all come into connection with the ship.
You're gonna make
Because I
me
do
feel
have
late
visions,
again.
really clear visions of it.
So consciously when you'll come in connection, because you might be connecting on some level all the time. Okay.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, when I physically see it with my physical eyes.
Okay. So keep visualizing and intending, because this person opens their heart to an experience,
Hmm.
right? So you stay open to the experience, which you sound really open to that experience. So that's not going to be that hard for you. And keep putting your information out there, because right now that looks like your job. You've had a breakthrough recently, and you know what the mission is here, right? And you've been talking about it. This says within 4. So I think you're already connecting, but it's more on an emotional level with those cups. But right when you least expect it, you'll consciously find yourself there. And it's within 4. So that could be with cups, weeks, months. If it was a major arcana card, I'd say years, but now I'm going to go weeks and months. So it's coming.
That makes sense. It's insane. Everything's falling into place.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah. And as you continue to process, I think it'll, like you said, speed things up. Like when I had I had a really big awakening studying with a medicine man. And I stepped away from his training, but his training got me to the place where I could ask for my own teachers, because I don't really believe in gurus per se. And I think we're all personally teaching ourselves with our experiences. And so all of a sudden, a vision of a wolf, so a very big gray black wolf, very large, bigger than normal wolves would be, came in right in front of me. It would sit in front of me, and it was like it came from down a hill. So it was always the same sound, as if a large animal was coming down a hill. That I would hear that, and it sounded like it was walking on leaves that had fallen. So, that crackly sound, if you've ever been, you're a Canadian, so you know about the fall. And in Vermont, I'm sure they have fall, right? So you get that crackly leaf sound. So this animal, this wolf, and I knew just my unconscious told me that's a really large wolf, but I didn't visually see it with my eyes. It was more in my heart. I could feel it, and it would sit in front of me and teach me things. So my teachers aren't off-worlders, like it sounds like your energy entity that started out as a toy of yours, right? And then turned into this Asian-looking fellow with the long white hair, right? And who might have looked like they were an Asian fellow, right? You're talking about that. Mine was a wolf. So mine's always animals, panther, wolf, ravens. They come and teach me things. But I believe maybe those entities just take the form of things that would make sense to the person. Right. So I think, your entity energy.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, I did get confirmation that he was indeed Andromedan. There was a talk that I was listening to, and this man from Kauai, and he was saying that he's in touch with the Andromedans, and some of them, he described them exactly the same, old Chinaman looking. So that was a confirmation for me. But yeah, it's I totally agree with you. Like whatever the person's comfortable with, their whatever their guide normally presents themselves of what, like my mind presented himself as my stuffed bunny, because I had no connection to ETs, or it would have been too much of a shock, or like a disconnect from 3D reality.
Do you feel frustration, Katie? Do you feel like, again, that for the knowledge, obviously we quest for knowledge, but is there a frustration with you too?
No, not at all. No,
You
I'm
feel like
more
the
like
timestamp.
I wake up every day so excited, because this past year alone, like I only spoke about the tip of the iceberg of what actually truly happened with me and my experiences this year, but it's just been insane. Like one thing after the other, bang, 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 like every day's magic. And I'm constantly getting validations and confirmations that that this is real. And I'm just like, my mind's blown,
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm
You know what
at
they call
Oregon-
that, Katie? You're in
Pardon?
the quickening. You're in the quickening and or the quantum leap.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that
Totally.
happened to me right about the time I saw the wolf. Everything was just a magical experience. Went on for about a year and a half. And then it sort of quietens down, but you have that in your heart always. And you can always just move to, like it doesn't always stay at that heightened intensity, although it would be nice if it did some, although we might get burnt out as humans for that. Right. But then things you always can go back to in your heart, knowing that's where your center is. It's not just sort of the everyday human life. Your real center is what your spiritual experience is and what I'm going to call it mission is.
Yeah. And I recently, what was coming in was, they've been taking me up on the ship much more than I ever expected. And when I was down at the Burning Mask in Cozumel, I was walking down to get a coffee one morning. And as I was at the front, instantly I felt this wave of nausea hit me. I blacked out and I wake up and there's like 5 frantic Mexicans over me. And I'm just like, as sensitive to energy and they're freaking out. I'm just like super calm. And I'm like, oh my God. And they had to literally wheel me back to my room in a wheelchair because I was so out of it. And not grounded in my body. And I was just like, I called my friend Julie. I'm like, what the heck just happened to me? And the first thing that came in was they took me up on the ship. And when they do that, your body is your energy field's recalibrated to the higher frequencies. And I wasn't feeling the best that day. I was a little bit sniffly and my energy wasn't super high. And so when I came back down into my physical body, I hit it like a ton of bricks, and it completely wiped me out. It was just like, because it couldn't recalibrate as it normally would if I was in a higher frequency. And so I had that experience. I don't have any memory from that, but this past weekend in Bergen, Norway, where we're at Stargate 18, which is connected ironically to the gray wolf and the whale. There's a old, I think it might be Haida Gwaii, but there's a story connecting the whale and the gray wolf. But I've just been seeing ships everywhere. And when we were doing ceremony down at the Stargate, there was a blue beam of light coming down and it had migrated over to Huna. And I was getting the message it was coming from one of the ships and that we were all receiving this activation of some sort in our light body. And we were in, the first day of the panel, which I presented a couple of talks, in the afternoon of the Saturday, the first day of it, I was totally out of it. Like I wasn't, half of me, Kuna calls me up and I'm on the panel and I'm just like, half of me wasn't there. I had gone somewhere. And then I realized I'm like, wow, I'm not in my body. Like, and the next day we're doing a meditation right in the morning. And, again, there was a ship that came right over the house and I had gone straight up and I'm getting more aware of when I do go up. And again, I could tell I wasn't fully in my body. I was only like 50% there. And what happened this weekend, I connected with an old soul, somebody who was part of my star family. And when our fields connected, it activated something in my heart, a channel in my heart. That's an interdimensional channel. And during the meditation of the Sunday morning, I was getting full-on conversations through my heart and telepathy from me being up on the ship in a meeting with the Galactics. And so now that this channel is open, I'm going to be receiving more information for when because before I'd have like no recollection or memory, but something had activated in my field. We had a soul contract of some sort to engage this in me. And so now I'm actually getting an echo of when I'm up on the ship in a higher density, but I'm on the ground here. Yeah.
I think things are getting a lot clearer and more as we go along in this situation in the world and this time, this incredible time in history that we're all experiencing together. I feel like more and more people are getting things a lot clearer and it could daily change. Like Kevin, don't you feel that? Like It's
I
like
do.
daily it gets more
Very fluid
clarified.
too. I think
Mhm.
again, we're gonna talk about, in fact, Katie, you have the pictures. Maybe you can share the tachyon energy, because I think this is us. I think this is the power of our positive thoughts. Or Janine, you got control? I see you clicking.
No, Katie's got it now.
Okay.
I gave it back to her.
Right, us ancestors. We gotta look at the young crowd to help
Okay,
us out.
set the pictures up for us.
Yeah, and again, these are what this is called tachyon energy, or how I guess the phenomenon is
Yep.
called rainbow clouds. And again, it looks like the sky's on fire. I don't know if you can show us the next one that's a little farther out, Kate. I mean, look at that. And
Wow.
when I first saw that, instantly I'm like, that's a good sign. Like, I don't know why. It could be a scary sign too, but I feel like this is really good and powerful. Now, what they give us, the establishment, is it's got to be at a certain longitude and latitude, and you got to have high cirrus clouds and crystal shaped or um, star shaped crystals, and the angle of the sun's got to be right. All this mumbo jumbo. But I think it's the original, again, tachyon energy. What that is the power of thought, the positive thought moving faster than the speed of light. And then I heard again, pyramids are the original generators of tachyon energy, which gets me to that whole power grid theory that we're researching. I don't know. Again, I'm a deer hunter, but I'm looking because it's very interesting to me. But maybe we can read the cards. Is that positive, and is that us?
Okay, can I ask you,
Yeah,
did you take
sure.
these photographs?
That one right there, I did not. The first one that we just saw was from West Virginia.
Yeah,
And then again, super rare phenomenon, but yeah, when I posted it, pictures from all over the world. This one is from Bennington, Vermont, my hometown. And what I like about this one, this isn't the typical chem rainbows from the stuff they're spraying us with. This is very distinct and different, even though you can see the chemtrails in the back there. But notice the colors of the chakra. That was the
yeah.
first thing that I caught. And again, I think this is a positive thing, but I'm a deer hunter, so let's see what you guys have to say. What do you think about this, Kate? I mean, what's your take on any of that stuff?
It's amazing. Yeah. I haven't ever come across it, but yeah, I see ships all the time, but I haven't come across these kind of colors. So that's amazing.
Okay, can I just mention that if that is chakra colors, it's going backwards to how the chakras are, which is fascinating. Like the chakras are coming, the down is up and the up is down. Like that's reversed, because the blues, green, and then the blue, and then the indigo, that's going towards the
Right,
other way, right? So they start at the bottom, red, orange, yellow, and
correct.
it's going opposite. Wow.
What happens above happens below. And Katie, I
Yeah.
think, didn't you have a story with an upside down south where you connected hearts? Or don't let me talk for you here. What was that story? I think you said something to that effect.
Well,
Am I
there
wrong?
was well, the tree of life as you can do readings using the tree of life, which has been badly used too, because the dark uses the tree of life as well in a bad way. But the tree of life, it reflects where you've been, where you're going. And like it reflects all time at the same time.
Mhm.
So, and what's below and what's above. So what you're working on spiritually, where you're at in that process. So yeah, it's a really fascinating layout. So I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but it's
Right.
like a so below, so above kind of reflection layout that reflects past lives that got you to where you are now and where you are in that spectrum of things.
If I've discovered anything in this journey, Janine, it's how much I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. So when you say what I'm talking about, I literally, in a lot of these subjects, don't know what I'm talking about. But oh my God, what a conversation, right? I hope
Yeah.
people appreciate that and get into it, because it is fascinating when if you have a connection, either way, actually, if you feel connected to Katie's story, or if you're triggered by Katie's story, right? If you feel like this is a bunch of nonsense and you want to share it that way, please share. But maybe you should look at yourself too. Right?
Yeah, you got to be polite though on my channel. You
Well,
can't
that's always good,
smear
right?
anybody.
Keep it civil, but it's
Talking
okay to
smack about somebody is not you're gonna get booted, let me tell
I
you.
love that, but I think you're ready for this when you're ready for it, and I think
Yeah.
we're exactly where we're supposed to be.
Yeah, like you could say you're not buying it, but you can't smear people on my channel. Okay, so see this hermit? Okay, this hermit is connected, so the galactic helpers. So it has something to do with galactic helpers moving us towards, so old souls. I always think of this as our future selves. So maybe that's why the upside down. It's our future selves. So going into a future version of ourselves, more evolved energies and entities. And then we've got this 9 of Pentacles. So helping us, so somehow showing us that they're here to help liberate, or that they're encouraging us to liberate ourselves. Because a lot of this liberation from the dark forces we've been required to do ourselves. Individually liberating, making personal boundaries, saying no to insane, draconian, lockdown sort of silliness. Like as each one of us wakes up watching channels like this, a lot of us have said and stepped away from mask wearing, even when they were still requiring it. It's like we were bending over, and a lot of people still are, to a dark force that was enslaving us. And as each person individually says no to that, that just makes the whole energy of the planet rise up. And each one of us has to do our work that way, by just quietly saying no. We won't be doing that. That's foolish and makes no sense. It's virtue signaling. We gave lots of examples of how you could do that throughout the last couple of years on the show. We'd have all kinds of guests talking about it. There's little ways, even if you're not having the experiences Katie's having, or sort of the openness that Kevin's obviously displaying, coming from a real different sort of a lifestyle. Even 6 months ago, he might not have been on channels talking about things like this. I got to be honest though, myself, I was a tarot card reader full-time for 35, now going on 40 years. So I raised 2 kids on it, like with the income from it. So this is not that new to me. Not Katie's story's new to me. Like the off-world stuff's new to me, but understanding that there's a whole nother world that makes no sense to a lot of normal sort of everyday people walking around. Okay, that part I lived in anyway. That's easy for me. Spirit.
You've always been weird. I love it.
Yeah, I was in the spirit world all day long, helping people figure stuff out, and I loved it. I love my job. I'm pretty grounded about it. Like I'm a Taurus and an Ox this lifetime, so I know how to ground the energy and just talk common sense about it. But I was talking about out there stuff every single day.
Right. Well,
So
I
we're
think for
good.
your average normie, your average person that's watching this, and I'm trying to connect those people too.
Yeah,
Again, it's about intuition and listening to your heart, no matter how crazy it seems. And likewise, what we hear from other people, we get our knowledge. Most of our knowledge doesn't come from experiences, unfortunately. Right? I can't talk about space really because I've never been to space. We get information, and again, we're supposed to fact check that. Just because it's coming from the news station or your politician or your doctor, lawyer, judge, whatever it is, it's still just information. A lot of times we take that as a conclusion, and that's unfortunate. It's still just information, no matter the source.
yeah,
That's why I like going directly to the source.
yeah.
Like Katie, this is Katie's story, right?
Yep.
A lot of the stuff I'm telling you are from my experiences, just like
Mhm.
you, Janine, and we're all individual, and we're all super and powerful and special. And we all have equal roles in this, is another huge piece. I
Yep.
don't think everybody's graduating. We're in a giant God school and we're graduating, and not everybody graduates at any graduation for that matter.
Yep.
But I think that's the test that we're under right now, and it's as simple as standing up and doing the right thing, and the service to others helps, right?
Mhm. Oh,
I don't think
service to others, big part.
I don't think Katie's trying to get rich or famous off this.
Yeah,
But if it's in, if I have
Yeah.
the capability, I'm going to help her. Hopefully, get both. I want
Yeah.
everybody to be rich and famous and happy.
You know what?
Already rich.
Exactly. And there's a power dynamic
love that
that is
too.
shifting that everybody's going to have to get comfortable with. the meek shall inherit the earth. And trust me, if anybody's been watching my channel, they know I'm not quoting that because I'm a big Christian type. Okay, because I believe Christianity, and in particular Catholicism, was literally created by the dark cult to oppress. And most organized religions were soulfully connecting individually is the way to go. And I'm not saying individual people that call themselves Christians are some of the most beautiful, kind people in the world. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the organizations and the clubs that call them, like the Vatican and all of the higher up. They've been trafficking children, things are not cool in those organizations, and we've been exposing them, and they've been exposing themselves, and their time's up. People are going to have to find a new way to connect in their hearts directly without the go-between. And that goes for everything. Medically, you're going to have to start intuiting your own. You're going to have to, we got to take out the government go-between, the medical go-betweens, all this disempowering stuff we've been giving all our power over to. Time to stop that and take it back onto ourselves. And that includes our spiritual path. That's an individual thing. What Katie's experiencing, she's individually connecting and quantum leaping through that. And her story is exactly unique to her. And it has nothing to do with anybody else's experience. So nobody can comment that that's what she's experiencing isn't true. Do you know what I mean? But everybody's going to uniquely have their own connecting way. Mine was through animals, and more of a sort of, I have lots of Native Indigenous, and my family just got our, we're known as in full Indigenous now in Canada, which is kind of exciting. And, but because my father never had that, and he grew up with a lot of prejudice against him as a Native man, he's half Native. Anyway, so our family took that on, some members of our family, and we got our Indigenous recognition because he was too ashamed of it his whole life. And then he felt sorry that he did that he stuffed it away and tried to hide it. But it was very unpopular. He's 88, and it was very unpopular to stand up and be counted. But so my experience might be very different than Katie's, but it feels like a quantum leap she's having, just like I had. And it's exactly connecting her to her mission. And she's connecting to those ships, or that particular ship. She'll meet all her star family that way, and or her soul connected soul family. And that's a beautiful thing. And it won't look like what mine looked like, but it doesn't make it, there's still a likeness to it, right? And there's a likeness to what Kevin's experiencing, seeing and being connected to those beautiful visions that Katie showed us there, that look like a reverse chakra. I pulled a few more cards on those, what they're for, okay? And we got that they somehow connected to, or at least that's what I got in the cards, those future beings, so ourselves in the future. So it's trying to signal, because that's an ace, so it's telling you something, signaling something, and signaling that the time has come to get, they've won a great victory. So they're trying to signal. So there's been going on, I think, layers of things like Ishmael Perez. I had him on my show not that long ago, and a lot of people have been talking about a lot of great off-worlder information truthers out there, have been talking about there's galactic stuff or multi-universal stuff going on as well. And I feel like they're signaling to us that we're soon to collide with what's been going on the earth and what goes on not on the earth. We're soon to collide and then all intermix, and we're going to end up knowing each other, right? Bumping right into each other.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like that's about to happen.
I always said I'm going to be the guy out there. Hey, I'm Kevin. Go ahead, Katie. Do you want to say something?
I just wanted to mention, I think it's important to note that the indigenous tribes there's no separation between the indigenous tribes and the galactics. Like a lot of the indigenous tribes are sub-tribes of Lemuria, where they actually lived amongst the star nations. And a lot of the cultural, indigenous cultural traditions stem from their connection with the star nations. And a lot of the ancient indigenous languages come from these ancient frequencies of our star nation galactic brothers and sisters. So it's all, yeah, there's no separation.
And again, you're right back to quantum physics. I am, right? We are all connected. I am my higher self in these past, and time is a loop. It's not linear. So we are the alien invasion. How do you like that?
Yeah.
Right? That's literally what we're talking about here. And
Yeah.
again, me being raised Catholic, Roman Catholic, right? Christian.
Yeah.
My mom was Catholic, dad was
Mhm.
Episcopalian, so I never had to go through, I guess, the indoctrination. It seems the more academia we have in this lifetime, the harder it is to break out of this spell that
Yeah.
they've had us under. And it's because you know everything. Sorry, guys, you think you know everything. The truth is we don't know anything, right? And once
Yeah.
you are able to open up your mind, and your heart is very important. I don't think your soul's up here. I think it's down here.
Oh, yeah.
And when you open up your heart and are able to even have these discussions, a lot of people can't even have these discussions. They trigger, it upsets them, it makes them angry.
Yeah.
And I understand that too. We're telling them, your entire world's been a lie, right? Your vote doesn't count and you're not really free. And by the way, the US is really the big chief bad guy. That's hard for a lot of people, Americans especially,
Yeah.
to swallow. That's a big red pill. It's easier to fool somebody than to convince them they've been fooled, but I think we know it. Again, you have to go within. I used to hate that. All my friends and guides now tell me you got to go in. You know the answers, Kevin. You go. It used to drive me nuts, but I know what they're talking about now. I'm learning about it. We already know this stuff. You just have to learn to trust it.
Yeah.
And once people start listening to that, it's
Yeah.
incredible. And again, going from Catholic, I met a woman named Lisa Schumerhorn. She did a past life regression. This
Yeah.
is all new. I've never done a past. I didn't even believe in reincarnation. And oddly enough, again, I went through a whole bunch of different lives. Ireland again, Egypt
Yeah.
came up, and in Egypt, I couldn't just be a regular Egyptian slave or whoever, right? I had to be the guy that designed the pyramids. I got this. This is my own imagination, my own words out of this past life regression. But I said I helped design the pyramids. I lined them up with Orion with help from the gods is the word that I used. And interesting enough, Katie, I saw your next show, and you talked about what I was talking about, designing the pyramids, not just the layout, but from inside, that you could look out to see our stars. And in the last interview, I watched you talk about remembering being in the top of an Egyptian cap and looking through holes so that you could encode on your iris. Again, I think I designed that, as outrageous as that sounds. And what are the odds that I'm connected with you? And I did that regression, and this is all recorded months and months before ever. I didn't know who Katie Raines was.
Yeah.
Right. So more of these impossible synchronicities that to me make it really real. The same with the emotion. When you cry, it's real.
Yeah.
Right. The truth makes us cry. I learned
Yeah.
that a long time ago. So
Katie, since we're kind of about to wrap up here, because we don't want to keep everybody too long, let us know what's next for you. It sounds like you're hanging out with Huna Flash, doing all these exciting things in Europe, it sounds like, if I got that right.
Yeah, I was I've spent a lot of time with Huna in the past couple of months, learning as much as I can. And he's connected. He was born and raised on the South Island of New Zealand, with the Maori Nation. So I think, moving forward, like you yourself, you're connected very much to your Indigenous roots. I think that in a lot of the truther community, that is lacking, this disconnect with the original tribes of the planet, and that are like rooted in the earth herself. And I've spent a lot of my spiritual journey was reconnecting with many of my Indigenous brothers and sisters, because that's where I came back to myself, was through them. I lived on Vancouver Island for about 8 years, where I spent a lot of time with the Nuu-chah-nulth, Clayoquot, and the Ucluelet First Nations. And I did a lot of work with the youth there. And I had the privilege of being invited on tribal journeys along the Pacific Northwest, all the way from Long Beach to Fino area down to Puyallup. So, that connection is very, very important, I think, for us to come back to our roots, come back to these ancient stories. And I personally believe that moving forward into this new earth, a lot of the spiritual political leaders will be Indigenous. they will be leading the way forward. And I can, when I stand next to an Indigenous person versus, you know, someone who has migrated somewhere else and kind of uprooted themselves, or they're disconnected from their ancestral connections, the energies are completely different. Like, I'll stand next to my Indigenous brothers and sisters and I'm just instantly grounded. And it's just like, yeah. So there's definitely, I've done a lot of work in that field, and working with Huna Flash, he embodies still that Maori, those codes, those energy codes, which are rooted in Lemuria. Like, Maori is one of the most ancient sub-tribes. Like, the Maori nation are elders to the Hawaiians, you know, so the wisdom that they've carried forward is just amazing. Like, they have survived colonialism and these constant attacks, and they've still managed to retain their mystery schools and pass on down the wisdom to the younger generation. So like, Huna's the real deal in terms of, you know, I'm not a follower of gurus or spiritual leaders or whatever, but he contains a lot of the ancient wisdom of the blueprint of Mother Earth, you know, and he is sharing that with the world. And he's been tasked to create the new higher frequency Stargate system, and he calls it the Motu grid. So the Motu are continental beings throughout the planet. I believe there's 7 continental beings, and the star system's actually meant to reflect the Earth-based grid. So the stars are going to shift positions eventually, because he's resetting this new Stargate system, because it's meant to what's as of below, so above. Right now you have these zodiacs, like, you know, Zeus, Greek, whatever, and it's just like, where the heck did these come from? You know, it's just like not matching the Earth whatsoever, and it's meant to. So that's some of the work he's been tasked to do, along with the group of Hunas that work alongside him. But there's 48 Stargates he's activated, about 18 of them so far, so there's still lots of work to do. There's 4 Stargates on each Motu continental being. So, and each being has a frequency signature, so it's actually conscious. Like, you know, the story of Turtle Island being north, that's like a conscious being. And so, this all ties back to our roots. So, and that's really important moving forward, to come back to these ancient frequencies and sounds, time before distorted light.
Wow. Kevin, give us an idea where you're headed here. Sounds like you're running
right off the top, man. My door is open. Right, I'm going to go wherever I'm called, and I just got to say how honored and proud I am to stand with you guys, especially you two. You talk about frequencies, and I think that's always been the attraction to you, Janine, and now absolutely to Katie. Look at you guys. You're freaking glowing. You really are. You're lighting up in that smile. I love that stuff. So you guys keep on doing what you're doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to run for governor, but I don't want to govern anybody. We're Vermonters here. We don't need people to tell us what to do. But you can find me on Kevin Hoyt on Telegram or Facebook, or Give, Send, Go, fighting for our freedom. If you want to help keep the Tracy Crane rolling.
I feel like they are going to need things like governors in the new sort of world we're creating. I feel like they're going forward. It'll be a bridge to a new way of sort of leadership, because I'm not saying someone's going to govern over anybody, but like some more of a voice. So there has to be some kind of organization, because you can't just not have leaders, you know what I mean? But the leaders,
I see it a lot smaller. Right? I want to govern an out of control system, and I see it. I think the government as we know it, guys, is gone. And it's never coming back. The good news is we get to determine what's next. I see a lot more local control. I see a lot, maybe it's councils. I've heard some people actually talking about that already. I'm definitely going to be a part of whatever this new system is, because I don't want anything to do with the old system. Election, education, judicial, they can joke and keep it. I'm looking for the new system, and that's my reality. That's my vision, and where I'm going to stay on that timeline. I think just like you guys and 3/4 of the world, it's another big lie. We've never been so divided. We've never been so united. 80% of the world knows something's up. We've never had 80% of the world agree on anything. We'll probably never get that again. And as far as I can tell, it's still growing. Our movement grows day by day. So Thanks for having us, Janine. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I agree with what you said there about it. We've never been more united. Like, you can say whatever you want. I'm telling you, Ashley and I did a road trip, and it was only, it's to the Haida Gwaii, and we spent time, by the way, that's a magical place. I'm not even sure it's in this dimension. When you
Yeah.
actually cross the Hecate Strait, you're in a whole nother ball game. So look it up, people, if you haven't already. Like,
Maybe that's where your ark is parked, Janine.
maybe because
That's
there
what I'm
was,
saying.
yeah, there was a
Yeah.
spot there that I used to see the UFOs and in these formations. But anyway, yeah, that I will have to check it out. Maybe I'll bring Katie there someday, and
All right.
I
can't
always
wait for
wanted
the
to go
show
there.
next.
she can
We
fly
used-
us in her ship.
Yes, totally.
It's
I
a
used to
long
do,
road trip.
we had this like ex-military Canadian military vessel from the 1950s, a 75-foot wooden vessel. And we used to do surf charters up near Nootka Sound. And up there, there's definitely like, it's like what you're saying, similar energies to Haida Gwaii, I would assume, but it's just like you're in another world. It's
Yeah.
just amazing.
Mystical, something mystical about it. And the Haida people are some of the most fascinating humans. And they're very much remind me of the Maoris, to be honest.
Mhm, yep.
And
They're a
the
tough tribe.
Hawaiians. They're very unique. They're not necessarily like, and I'm more plain, my two kinds of native I got lots of, I got German, what used to be Yugoslavian, Irish, Scottish, believe it or not, and French, Canadian. But then that's a whole bunch of mix, but on my dad's, he's got the German and Yugoslavian on his mom's and two kinds of native on his dad's. So the native is the Cree and the Kootenai. But the Haidas, I was a Haida in a past life. And as soon as I got there, a Haida medicine man tracked me down and said, "We've been waiting for you. And you were a Haida medicine man." I was a male in that lifetime here. And he told me all about my past lives, and he took me under his wing to do some work with. Right. So yeah, it's a fascinating place, but this has been so much fun, you guys. And we're going to definitely do some more investigating. I asked the universe, and my viewers will remember this, to please bring more of the puzzle for the off-world puzzle to come together. And now I've got so many fascinating guests talking about what's going on in the off-world, right? And it's all of a sudden it's all fallen together. And before, like even 6 months ago, I was so in the dark about how things worked. Now I'm starting to piece it together with the help of Katie's stories from like what you're talking about, Katie, what Kevin's bringing, what other people, like all of these people with knowledge like that are starting to gravitate towards coming on the show. And it's just Megan Rose, like it's fascinating. Ishmael
It's all of
Perez.
us.
Yeah,
All your
and like we're
viewers
all,
too. The viewers are relating, and it's
Yeah.
important to know you guys are just as important.
yeah,
I don't want any pedestal. It's the last thing I want.
Yeah.
Everybody's equal in this.
you
and
know it. Yeah,
Once you stand
Yeah.
up and put your piece on the table,
Yep.
you meet 1,000 other people with other pieces for you.
you bet.
So
Mhm.
that's how
Yeah.
it's working. This is a true
Yep.
people's movement. And it's
Mhm.
not just Vermont or the United States or Canada. This is global.
Global.
There's billions of us all over the world. So like I said, don't be afraid to let your weird light shine. It's beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I was told to share too. It's not about me. It's about activating and helping everyone else wake up and
Right
come
on.
together.
Oh,
Together.
wow. I love what you guys both said just now. And we're gonna close the show on those wise words. So thanks everybody for watching, and thank you two for coming
Thank you
on and
so
sharing your
much.
knowledge.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.